Hey, good morning, Choice Residential. Hope your day's off to a wonderful start. Today, I want to talk about the idea of decoupling the commission conversation. This is an incredibly important concept for all agents to understand as we move forward in this post settlement world. The idea of decoupling commission conversations means when we're speaking to sellers, we are talking about a listing agent compensation or commission and a buyer agent commission, not a total fee as the initial thing that we're talking about. Now, of course, we know when we talk about a listing commission and a buyer commission, if we add them up, it does create a total commission amount. But in terms of how we discuss it with sellers and explain it to them, we need to make sure that we are going into a listing appointment saying, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, here's the value that I bring. Here's what I will do for you. Here's how I'm going to get top dollar. Here's how I'm going to market your home. Here's how I'm going to do all the things that I bring to the table, right? You're explaining your unique value proposition. And then, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, here's my fee for doing that. So that can be X percent, period. Next sentence. Now, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, we also have the opportunity to offer compensation to a buyer's agent. Let's discuss what, if anything, we are going to offer to a buyer agent. And here's why we want to consider doing that. By offering to pay the buyer agent's compensation, we are removing an obstacle for that buyer. By not paying any compensation or not paying sufficient compensation to actually cover the buyer agent's fee, we are putting a burden on that buyer. That buyer now has to come up with that money out of pocket, and that could impact their decision to either come look at your home, or if they do come look at it, it could impact their decision to make an offer. And if they do make an offer, it could impact the terms that they're willing to offer because they have to come out of pocket for that fee. So by offering compensation, the ultimate goal, the ultimate strategy that we always have and that I always have in representing your best interests is to net you the most money in the best possible terms. And one of the ways we can accomplish that is, in fact, by offering compensation to the buyer agent in order to remove that obstacle and make sure that we are exposing your home to as many possible qualified buyers as we can. Now, the seller may agree with you and say, great, how much should we offer? And then you'll have a conversation about what to offer as compensation. Or the seller may not agree and say, well, no, I'm not going to offer compensation. So let's take that question. If they say, no, I'm not going to offer compensation, I think a prudent response as the listing agent would be totally perfectly understandable that you don't want to define what that offer of compensation is going to be to the buyer agent up front. Just be prepared that most of the time when we receive an offer, they are going to ask for you to pay compensation. And there could be a range of what that compensation is that they're asking for. But I just want you to be prepared now that that will likely be a part of the consideration that we're making when it comes time to receive an offer. The good news is you get to decide what offer you accept. And so whatever that compensation is that's coming in, you'll take that into consideration as you evaluate the total benefit of any given offer that comes into you. So whether they're asking you to pay 1%, 2%, 3%, or 10%, it's okay. You can agree to pay that amount, but you're, of course, going to take that into consideration with what offer you would be willing to accept from that buyer. So just want you to be prepared. Most likely we're going to get that request. And it is typically prudent to agree to some compensation so that we can get the offer from the buyer, and then we can negotiate terms that best benefit you. So that's the way the conversation might go with the seller if they aren't going to offer compensation up front. I just want to also prepare you as we talk about this post-settlement world and decoupling the commission conversation. Again, as a listing agent, you are setting what your compensation is for your listing services, having a separate conversation about what you might offer to a buyer agent, if anything. And if no compensation is being offered, you're preparing the seller and setting expectations that even though they are not offering it up front, that there's a good chance that that will become part of the final contract package because it removes an obstacle from the buyer being able to make their offer. But it's important as agents we understand that just because a seller is not offering compensation up front does not mean that they are not going to be willing to offer compensation. So as a buyer's agent, don't let that get you twisted into a pretzel. Know that you're just going to be requesting that compensation. And if they don't offer it, then it will become part of the conversation you have with your buyer client on what their commitment is to you as far as paying your fee and how you might structure an offer so that they can get that fee covered with seller concession. So if you have any questions about this or want to soundboard it more, please feel free to reach out. And again, these are always great conversations for us to have internally with our weekend wrap-up calls. If you need me, I'm always just a phone call away. Thanks.